Okay, this is gonna be a long one. Some Clash Royale cards are completely useless, others define the entire game. Today we are ranking every single card from the absolute worst to the very, very best. Number 121, Void. Another spell that has seen the dark void of Supercell, I guess pun intended. It used to decimate entire bushes by itself, and now it barely adds any value to your deck. Be it the Skeleton Army, P.E.K.K.A.s, Mini P.E.K.K.A.s, this card struggles against it all. It can't stop Hog Riders, it can't kill Goblin Barrels without losing half the tower, it's outdone by almost every spell in the game, if it wasn't for Goblin Curse. If you want one spell to absolutely not use, well, you just found your card. Mirror. Mirror is a very unique card, but very tricky to play. For just one extra elixir, you get a higher leveled troop, but more importantly, you get the chance to play the same card twice. Already used a spell on defense, and just play it again. Your Berserker is underleveled and about to die, and get a fresh new Berserker. Here's where the math gets tricky though. For mirroring skeletons, you pay 100% extra amount, but for a golem, it's just 25% more. But again, it provides a higher value in cycle decks. Figuring out whether you need mirror in your deck is not the challenge, but the answer is usually a no. 119, Clone. The clone spell's always been loved by the community for its troll potential. It is great fun, and sometimes it gives insane value with the right card, like, Giant Skeleton, but compared to other cards, if you're wanting to push your trophies, this is most likely not the card you want to get used to. If you want to have fun, well, go ahead. And speaking of fun, I make a ton of fun videos on Clash Royale, talking about the history of the game itself, different cards, feel free to check them out, and maybe drop a sub if you do like them, it really helps out a ton. 118, Elite Barbarians. In the early days, this duo was terrifying, even for the pros. From the days of peak brokenness, it has come to a stage where it's easily countered by cheap cycle cards. They hit hard, but getting them on the tower is almost impossible now. It's been a long time since we've had the E-Barb meta, and it doesn't seem like it's coming back anytime soon. 117, Goblin Curse. The Goblin Curse has been at the peak of its usage and slowly been nerfed to the ground. The damage amplification on launch was too overpowered, like every new card at its launch. Players didn't realize it for a long time, and when they did, the game was in chaos. It got emergency nerfs after the infamous Goblin Machine, Goblin Giant P.E.K.K.A. deck, and was completely wiped off when the damage amplification was removed. It now struggles to find its place in many decks, and requires you to play multiple spells to get any value out of it, if you're even able to. 116, Elixir Collector. The Elixir Pump remained the sole way to get extra elixir in the game for a very long time, until the Elixir Golem came into play. A very unique mechanic, not only providing you extra elixir, but also throwing off the elixir counting of the opponent. Destroying it with spells is tricky, you can't be sure if it's a positive elixir trade unless you've played against it a lot, and let's be honest, none of us have. This card never made it into the actual game, all the way from its inception, even more so now. Everyone has one spell or another, and knowing when to play the pump is a whole nother skill. It is still very luck-based on your opponent's deck, and no one likes the guessing game. A change in the elixir cost could revive the card maybe, I don't know. 115, Lava Hound. The Lava Hound had another early game mechanic that no other card had, spawning not just 2 but 6 smaller units that can do significant damage. The slow speed and easily dying to a lot of simple cards make it a very weak card in the current state of the game. It finds its place only in Lava Loon and some minor cycle decks. The respawning mechanic is very common now, and honestly there's too many other heroes and evolutions that you'd rather play. 114, Goblin Machine. The Goblin Machine has seen the peak of the game, just like the Goblin Curse. It remains decently popular, but is localized to only a few deck styles. On its own, it remains easy to kill, and as a support card, it pairs with cards like E-Golem and P.E.K.K.A. Limiting your options is never a good idea, and 6 Elixir is a decent commitment just for a support card. 113, Spirit Empress. The Spirit Empress was launched with the fun game mode Merge Tactics. Supercell didn't really know what they were doing with Merge Tactics yet, just like the Spirit Empress. It was a little broken on launch, and the dual mode was expected to make it an all-arounder. It ended up being her weakness though, with the ground form being played only as a last-ditch attempt. The usage rate was never extremely high, and it was soon nerfed a lot as well. For a new card, she never got the attention that many others did. 112. Goblinstein. The Goblinstein used to be absolutely broken. Play the doctor and the monster together, it's a threat. Split them at the back, it is still a threat. From probably the scariest and most annoying card for quite some months, this card has spiraled all the way down to where nobody is worried about it. It received quite some nerfs as well, and it no longer provides the same value that it used to for a long time. 111. Three Musketeers. These sexy women have always been very inconsistent throughout the game's history. From being ignored for almost a decade to getting a fresh rework, nothing really helped them make it back strong into the game. They are busted on defense against tanks, and no one is sending tanks without proper support troops. They struggle to find their place in decks, and very reasonably. Playing them requires serious skills, and touching grass is absolutely not allowed. Number 110. Tombstone. Tombstone has had immense defensive potential, distracting Hog Riders and mini P.E.K.K.A.s. I mean, it sounds like a decent card, and trust me, I fully agree that it was, but now, especially after the launch of Earthquake and so many other spells, it's way too easy to destroy. The offensive potential has always been 0, but now the defensive potential takes a serious hit too. You'd rather end up playing a bomb tower or Tesla. 109. Battle Healer. After the removal of the heal spell, there are only 2 ways you can actually heal up troops. The Battle Healer does that job decently well, but never really got into the big leagues. For 4 Elixir, it has quite a low offensive potential. It doesn't align well with the fast-paced meta and belongs to a few decks, usually ending up with E-Golem and E-Drag. A rework to the healing mechanic could save the card. Number 108. Rascals. The Rascals have undergone some minor reworks here and there, but ever since their release, they never got into the limelight. They're viewed as a worse combination of archers and the knight, and for 5 Elixir, they're too expensive, easy to counter, and barely outperform any card. With the new Evos, heroes, and broken spells, having them in your deck just doesn't make any sense. Number 107. Skeleton Dragons. If there's one card which has been sidelined since its launch, that would be the Skeletal Dragons. They were always ignored by the community, not getting the love they deserve. You can split them in the back and they can't be ignored, even when spammed at the bridge, but they fail to outperform the Baby Dragon due to their less HP. Top players still prefer Baby Dragon, and the Skeleton Dragon only finds its place in a couple of Lava Hound decks. Number 106. Golem. The Golem used to dominate in the early days of Clash and would continue to do so for a very long time to come. It belonged to one of the most popular beatdown decks, gave a purpose to the Night Witch and the Elixir Collector. It got some damage reworks over the years, which didn't affect its usage by a lot. It was also revived significantly by the Sneaky Golem and the Golem Cycle trend, and the only reason it ranks so low is the shifting meta. It fails to adapt to the meta, relying on old and basic cards, and beating Hyperbait and Logbait with the beatdown deck is very challenging, if not impossible. Plus, upgrading a card which forces you to play 4 other fixed cards, that's usually a big red flag. Number 105. Minion Horde. Need high speed? Minion Horde. Need to shave off troops? Minion Horde. Now, back in 2018, you could defend everything with Minion Horde. They fell off very quickly though, especially after the launch of the Firecracker. This would be followed by evolutions and a number of spells. Minion Horde is simply a card which is not built for 2026. The synergy is way too far off, falling out of the meta. It's vulnerable to spells, especially when everyone has them, is way too harmful to decks, and apart from trolling, they barely serve any purpose to the current meta. I hope they don't, but they'll probably be struggling for quite a while. Number 104. Heal Spirit. The Heal Spirit surpasses the Battle Healer in a number of ways. Lower elixir cost, being a cycle card, and distracting just as good as the Fire Spirit. The heal sometimes can be game-changing when played like a pro, the skill barrier to master the card is quite high, and the versatility to belong to many decks is also quite low. Finding the right deck for the Heal Spirit is a bit of a challenge, and knowing when to play it and how to play it is an even bigger one. If you're not sure, this card isn't for you. 103. Goblin Drill. The Goblin Drill would dominate the meta for several months, only to fall completely out of the loop. The evolution was terrible, making it weaker than normal. After getting a little popular, it was slammed down to the ground by some heavy nerfs. It remains almost a forgotten card now, belonging only to some very specific decks. Even after some reworks, the players are no longer interested in playing it, very reasonably. The Evo Mortar is a good substitute, which completely removes the Evo Drill out of the picture. Number 102. Earthquake. This might feel like rage bait to the Hog Earthquake players, but hear me out. Tell me 3 decks you know of which rely on Earthquake to win the game. The spell concept is great, but the struggle to find its place in decks makes it a very gimmicky card. Sure, it does a good amount of damage to buildings and helps your hogs connect to towers, but in most decks it can be easily replaced by Zap, slightly cheaper, and reliable against bats as well. 101. Electro Giant. When your opponent plays the Electro Giant at the back, you have to lock in. Ignore this card and you might even lose your King Tower. Over the years, he's lost the aura and is countered by way too many cards too easily. Combining it with Sparkies and good support still makes it menacing, but no one really plays it anymore. The Hero Giant is a better overall card, and the high elixir cost makes it even less fun to play. Number 100. Only 100 left. Royal Giant. The Royal Giant has seen lots of buffs and nerfs among all cards, if not the most. The evolution was a massive change to the way the card worked, and it really shined for a couple of months then. The high usage would still continue for a while until it inevitably got the well-deserved nerf. As a tank, it's quite hard to top this list because limiting your options is never a good idea. Maxing out a win condition means you make it very difficult to try new decks and cards, making this chore of a game a much more terrible experience. Number 99. Sparky. Even after having the highest damage for a decade, this card never got the love it deserves. It still dies to Rocket, and it's still a good card if you like gambling. It can either win you the entire game or destroy any chance you ever had. It relies on your opponent carrying very specific cards, which you obviously can't wait on. Sparky finds its home only in a couple of decks, the most popular being the classic Goblin Giant Sparky deck. If you want to keep your options open, this is not your card. Number 98. Royal Hogs. Royal Hogs is one of the few win conditions which can be split at the middle. For 5 elixir, they are capable of dealing tons of damage to the opponent's tower, but again, you have to rely on your opponent carrying certain cards and spells. If they have a decent cycle going along with a building, well, you're in trouble. If they have Fireball or anything that pulls them to the center, you're in trouble again. The Evos are decent, but quite easily countered. Just because you unlock the Evo doesn't mean that you need to build your deck around them, so yeah. Number 97. Zappies. Zappies have immense defensive potential, don't get me wrong. They can stop tanks right in their tracks, hard countering many cards entirely, but let's be realistic, no one is playing tanks at the bridge for you to counter them that easily. Usually they'll be supported with splash cards and spells which are strong enough to get rid of the Zappies entirely. They used to primarily only belong to one deck, the Royal Hogs and Royal Recruits deck. Now they struggle to define their place there too. 96. Skeleton King. The Skeleton King is arguably the worst champion right now, right after Goblinstein. It's slow and gives immense value to all the splash damaging cards that your opponent has. It doesn't do specifically well against any card on defense, and killing it honestly isn't that big of a problem. If it reaches the Princess Tower, sure, it can give tons of value, but the chances of that happening are incredibly low. He's unreliable on defense and offense. Compared to other champions, his ability barely provides any value either. 95. Inferno Dragon. This flying beast can take down lots of tanks very easily, when your opponent has the right deck. Lava Hounds, Giants, Hog Riders, you can melt them all, but if your opponent has any Swarm card, prepare to lose. If they have anything that resets your Inferno Dragon, it takes points straight off your deck and reduces your shot at winning the match. 94. Fire Spirit. The Fire Spirit has lost its family along the way. There used to be 3 of them, and they were absolutely busted, but now it spawns only a single one. It does the damage of a fireball on towers and forces your opponent to defend against it, but on defense, it's surpassed by the Electro Spirit and the Ice Spirit by far. Sure, it can get rid of a lot of swarms, but your opponent won't usually be doing that. 93. Mighty Miner. The Mighty Miner is the next worst champion card. Yes, it can do absolute truckloads of damage and leave a bomb while changing lanes too, but in practical gameplay, these scenarios will hardly ever arise. It would usually get stunned by some spell, and the opponent will usually be smart enough not to give you the value of the ability. The tankiness and the bomb makes it better than the Inferno Dragon, but nonetheless, the Mighty Miner remains quite low on our list. 92. Hunter. The launch of the Rune Giant made the Hunter very strong for a couple of weeks, but apart from those 2 weeks, the Hunter barely got any attention throughout its career. It found its place in the Royal Giant Fisherman deck and got an evolution, which was quickly forgotten after the launch of the Vine spell. A very neglected card as a whole, the Hunter really needs to step up his game to make it back into the meta, and it does have the potential. Number 91, Giant Skeleton. The Giant Skeleton has always been a very neglected card since its launch. It got several bomb reworks, and honestly, it's a very solid card even now. It's fun to use, and climbing with the clone and the mirror gives you that explosive, pun intended, strategy of Clash Royale. But it does get overshadowed by the low synergy value it offers, and at the top ladder, people don't really struggle against this relatively weaker giant. Number 90, Rune Giant. The Rune Giant is the only card which can make other troops stronger. Rest in peace, Goblin Curse. It was launched with the Berserker, and they were meant to be played together. At the start, she was an absolutely broken card, making the Firecracker and Hunter impossible to ignore. It got some instant emergency nerfs to the ground, and no one played her for the following months to come, finding it as an expensive ice golem with no additional value whatsoever. With the comeback of cycle decks, though, it is slowly creeping back into the meta, popularized by Ken and the biggest Rune Giant fan at Rune Giant Cycle. The synergies with Berserker and Bats are being explored now, bringing it back fresh from the grave. Number 89, Barbarian Hut. Like the Rune Giant, the Barbarian Hut is another severely underrated and underutilized card. It is superb on defense against ground cards, and clogs up the entire lane if left undefended. After the rework of the Furnace and the Goblin Hut, this is the only spawning building you need to worry about, but it does have its own downsides too. The versatility remains quite low, similar to the Expo. High elixir cost buildings mean you can only play them with certain cards and decks. Moreover, playing Barbarian Hut against fireballs and rockets can be very tricky. Some cards like Firecracker fully counter a badly placed hut as well. It's a very hard card to buff without making it extremely strong. 88, Goblin Giant. OGs would never forget the terror this card brought in its early days. The infamous Sparky Goblin Giant deck is still extremely popular, even with new heroes dropping left and right. The classic Evo P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant is still quite strong. Finding cards that work with it is pretty tricky. On its own, it's quite a unique card. Unlike other giants, you can't rely on it to take the entire tower or even do a lot of damage. It's usually paired with cards that have a high damage per second, and this card forces the rest of your deck to be shaped around it. Having cards that work only with certain other cards is always a big no in my book. Number 87, Goblin Demolisher. The Goblin Demolisher is another card sidelined away from the meta. Players are slowly realizing the potential this card holds, and there are some upcoming decks as well, but it's still a tricky card to play, and relatively easy to defend against. It might rise in the ranking going ahead, but as of now, the Goblin Demolisher has to lie low. 86, Wizard. The Wizard has been popular throughout its launch, especially in the mid-ladder, but after the launch of the Evo and Hero, he slowly found his place at top ladder as well. Although there are no concrete decks which revolve around him, he plays a decent supportive role. Being a 5 elixir card, the hero is especially vulnerable to fireballs and remains more of a no-skill card. If you're decently skilled, you'll be able to easily counter him. Number 85, Little Prince. For a few months after his launch, the Little Prince was devastatingly strong. The card was given to everyone, making it a must-play champion in every deck. It was slowly nerfed to the ground, revived again shortly for the ability to cycle your decks quicker using champions, but after the game allowed multiple champions, it was basically the same as any other card. The card has made several comebacks, but fails to offer any unique value as a card on its own, and thus that puts it quite low in our list. 84, Barbarians. The Barbarians are capable of defending many units on the ground, be it giants, royal giants, even mega knights, but the high vulnerability to splash units and spells make them pretty obsolete. They die to fireball and poison and give immense positive value to firecrackers. Instead of Barbarians, you'd rather end up playing a number of other cards like Goblin Gang, Evolved Skeleton Army, or even Bats. These blonde men are just not made for the fast-paced game. 83, Elixir Golem. The Elixir Golem has always been a very menacing win condition, which couldn't be ignored. But on its own, it's just a free elixir supply to your enemy. You need to combine it with Electro Dragons and Battle Healers or spam way too many of the E-Golems. And like many other cards, this card struggles to find a true purpose, other than the obvious spam. In other decks, they usually struggle to act as a solid win condition on their own, and hence are not one of the best cards you can use. 82. Phoenix. The respawning ability of the Phoenix used to be absolutely broken on launch, respawning every time the egg was just a little too far from the tower or raged. This would be quickly nerfed like many other cards in the game, and the damage would be significantly reduced as well, bringing it all the way to the bottom of the stock. Some slight reworks enable it to fit into Lava Loon decks, and it manages to outdo Mega Minions barely. A whole extra elixir just for a slight benefit is usually not worth the trade. 81. Inferno Tower. Like the Inferno Dragon, it is extremely good at melting down tanks, but it manages to outdo it in a few aspects: a larger range, but more importantly, the ability to pull win conditions towards it. Even if it is reset, the distraction it creates is a crucial mechanic which helps it contribute more than just damage to the gameplay. It still remains heavily outshined by other cheaper buildings which really deliver a lot more value instead of just dealing with one specific type of unit. Number 80. Magic Archer. The Magic Archer is a very satisfying card to play, especially when you get that geometry you're trying so hard for. It can deal immense damage to towers and turn losing games into winning ones. It used to dominate in some decks like the P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam, but now it struggles to find its place yet again. Some recent buffs suggest that this card might slowly be making it back into the meta, stronger than ever, but as of now, Magic Archer still has to practice a lot. Number 79. Mortar. Siege decks exist because of two main cards, Expo and Mortar. The Mortar is one of the cheaper ways to deal tons of damage to the tower for just 4 elixir. The Evo Mortar is an absolute menace too, but usually getting a lock onto the tower will be quite hard if your opponent has any cheap cards like an Ice Golem which can distract it. While some low damaging troops like bats take it out entirely, the skill cap is quite high and only recommended for people who really want to commit to these specific cards for a long time. 78. Dark Prince. The Dark Prince has an interesting history. Although it never shone the brightest, it's always been persistent in the meta here and there. The splash damage and charging effect at just 4 elixir makes it quite attractive, but don't get lured in just by hearing that. It is countered quite easily and cheaply by just using Ice Spirits and Skeletons. There are simply an ever-growing number of cards which counter it, making it less and less reliable. It still finds its place in some giant double Prince decks, but it is very limited. Number 77. Bomb Tower. In the last few years, the Bomb Tower has made a serious comeback into the meta. It defends Royal Hogs very strongly and does a very decent job against many other cards as well. Being cheaper than Inferno Tower, even though it seems like a slight difference, puts it in a whole different situation. It also has quite high HP, which makes it a reliable defense in many situations. The Bomb Tower has stood the test of time, making it quite a reliable building compared to some others. 76. Night Witch. The Night Witch's existence got most of its meaning when it was paired with golems, but there are some scenarios when it outdoes this traditional work. It can defend against some solid units on its own with that melee attack supported by bats. E-golems and even E-barbs can be mostly countered just using the Night Witch. The offensive potential could still use a rework though, making it synergize with a bunch of other cards. The Night Witch is very close to being a great card. 75. P.E.K.K.A. If you need a card which hits just as hard as Sparky but is more reliable, well, she's here. There are quite a lot of meta decks around her, and she doesn't exactly rely on other cards to make herself strong. The independent behavior makes her way better than a lot of other cards, and the high HP makes P.E.K.K.A. a decent threat as well. When combined with some broken cards, the opponent is sure to have a bad time. The slow speed is a drawback, but every coin has two sides. 74. Rocket. If you have to choose the goofiest spell, it's gotta be the Rocket. Straightforward, and maybe a bit too much. It does 500 damage to a tower, and troop damage high enough to snipe those Sparkies behind the King Tower. Even after so many revolutionary changes in the game, Rocket still slips through, making it space in some popular Expo and Logbait decks. Being a 6 elixir card puts it at a disadvantage against fast cycle decks, but if you manage to draw the game long enough until triple elixir, Rocket will shine through. 73. Flying Machine. The Flying Machine is probably among the top 10 most annoying cards you can face. It's hard to kill, has incredible range, and does way too much damage for just 4 elixir. It also acts like a fireball bait, and combining it with Royal Hogs or Royal Recruits means it is game over for your opponent. Take your time mastering the Flying Machine, and you'll be able to come up with decks around it as well. For now, the meta entertains only a few Lava Loon and Royal Hog decks, and that's where the Flying Machine lives, putting it on a slightly bad stage. damage. 72. Mother Witch. When we talk about unique game mechanics, we can't ignore the Mother Witch. She was absolutely broken when she cost 3 elixir. Even now, when she costs 4 elixir, she's still quite good. She struggles to find her place in the meta, but honestly, she's a very strong defensive card against both logbait, hyperbait, and fast-paced decks which dominate the meta right now. The vulnerability to spells does make her slightly weak, and a little rework on her damage could put her right back in shape. Number 71. Expo. Like the Mortar, the Expo is an extremely strong win condition as well. It does cost more than Mortar, very reasonably. Once it locks onto your tower though, it's pretty much dead. It demands good defense, especially when combined with archers or evolved Tesla. Giant Snowball makes it extremely strong as well, but just like the Mortar, getting a single lock can be an extremely hard task against most pro players. 70. Cannon card. The cannon card is another extremely neglected card. For just 5 elixir, you get a moving cannon. It's strong on both defense and offense with a great deal of DPS. When combined with the right troops, it is truly unstoppable. On its own, it's countered quite easily using cycle cards, which makes it a bit obsolete. The potential is very high, and like the Night Witch, it's very close to becoming a great card. Number 69. Nice. Ram Rider. Just like the cannon card, the Ram Rider is pretty outclassed as well. The concept is amazing, and it does deliver on what it promises. It acts as a decent defense against Balloon as well, and can't be countered as easily as the Hog Rider. The slightly higher elixir cost makes it a bit unfavorable to play though when compared to the Hog Rider. If your opponent has a Tombstone, it makes a significant difference to the entire game. Number 68. Freeze. If you're naming cool spells, Freeze would make it right to the top of the list. It flips the table entirely, putting you at a massive advantage when it seems like there's no hope. The element of surprise it can carry with an offensive push is insanely high. But once you play it, your opponent will usually be prepared on what comes with the next push. With newer spells like Vines and heroes like the Ice Golem, this top-tier card has fallen a lot, ignored by the pros and the mid-ladder menaces alike. Number 67. The Princess. The Princess really is another strange card. Being one of the OGs, it's come a long way, surviving every update. It used to be a card that was reliable on both defense and offense, and has been reduced to purely a bridge spam troop. It belongs to only the logbait decks as of now, and is extremely weak on defense unless your opponent has swarm cards. It does its job quite well, but it struggles in defending its value in 2026. A slight damage rework or adding a new mechanic could bring it back from the grave. Number 66. Prince. The Prince has also been dominating Clash Royale from the prehistoric period. It started off as a rare card and was quickly bumped up to the epic rarity. A few months back, it was buffed to its absolute peak. It instantly charged up and dealt way too much damage. Defending it was a total nightmare. After some slight nerfs, it became slightly easier to defend, and now it can be defended against using cheap troops decently, but it still delivers immense value on the defensive side. Being an overall balanced card, it's one of the troops you can consider upgrading if you wish to play a variety of decks. 65. Ice Wizard. The Ice Wizard has always been a very underwhelming card for most players. There have always been complaints about how boring the card is, how low damage it does. When pro players finally took the matter into their own hands, players saw the immense potential it could unlock. It is busted on defense, slowing down entire pushes while other troops chip down your opponent. The synergies with Graveyard and Expo decks is unmatched. The skill barrier is relatively low as well. The mistakes you can make are less punishing too, as it costs you just 3 elixir. 64. Electro Wizard. The Electro Wizard used to be quite weak, countered by spirits and skeletons. After its buff though, it is slightly stronger, not being easily distracted by a single ice spirit. This much needed buff put it back into popular decks like the P.E.K.K.A. Bridge spam, and its history in defending against Sparkies still remains unmatched. The synergies are pretty decent too, making it a reliable support troop with many win conditions. For 4 elixir, he can significantly over-deliver if your opponent begins to fumble. Number 63. Monk. Deflecting rockets was something no one expected Clash Royale to allow us to do. On its launch, everyone was jarred by the potential it unlocked on the defensive and, more importantly, the troll side. Deflecting rockets, goblin barrels, giant snowballs, the list never ends. It is an extremely fun card to play and has gotten numerous health nerfs over the years. It does good damage and counters golems and royal giants very significantly. The deflection can be game-changing if you manage to predict your opponent, and if you want to try out cool game mechanics, there's probably no better card to upgrade. 62. Bandit. The Bandit has really taken a big hit in the last few years. From being an absolutely terrifying card to deal with, finding its place in many decks, it no longer really belongs anywhere. The Golden Knight, Boss Bandit, and even the Royal Ghost, all of them outshine her by far. She's countered just by skeletons, making her very vulnerable against a lot of cards. But even with all these drawbacks, she remains a very strong element of surprise for just 3 elixir. No one plays her anymore, and your opponents are not going to expect you to. If you build the right deck around her, the dashing ability deals immense value, taking out firecrackers on offense and princes on defense. 61. Giant. Classic, old, and reliable. Only now he is absolutely busted. The Hero Giant brings it back strongly into the meta, if you know how to play him well. The offensive potential is unmatched when paired with the right troops, and the high HP for just 5 elixir is a great all-in-one deal you could have. It goes well with most of the spells and support troops, doesn't die easily to most buildings, and is a great way to kite your opponent's troops. It finds a strong spot in graveyard decks even at the top of the ladder, and the low cost allows players to experiment with new cards. 60. Rage. One of the most underrated spells of the game. The Rage spell remains ignored by many even today, probably because of the low damage it delivers directly. If you find the right timing and push to support, the result could be devastating. Berserkers start chopping down pushes, Inferno Dragons charge up faster, skeleton armies convert into goblins. The interactions are immaculate, and for 2 elixir, it proves to be a very fun card to play. It delivers on what it promises, but remains a relatively more gimmicky card to play. Number 59. Suspicious Bush. At launch, this card was taken quite differently by people of the community. Some people saw the immense potential, some were confused it would be worth it. Even now, the players are very split on where to put this card. As a solo win condition, it provides no value if your opponent has a single spell, but it slowly found its spot in hyperbait decks, confusing your enemy on where to use which spell. If you ask me, this card is yet to reach its maximum potential. There's strategies yet to be formed with it, and when people realize exactly how to play it, like the Goblin Demolisher, there could be a huge comeback. 58. Lightning. The Lightning spell has the second highest damage among all the spells. Earlier, it used to be pretty sidelined by the players, being used to primarily counter Sparky. After the launch of Evolutions, though, the value it could provide significantly increased, dealing with Evo Witches, Furnaces, and Lumberjacks. It remains slightly better than Rocket because of the larger area of impact, which is crucial if your opponent decides to space out his buildings and troops. As a spell, it is reliable. You only need to learn the right timing to play it and what troops to play it against. 57. Balloon. Combine it with the Lumberjack and you get the all-time classic strategy, the Lumberloon deck. This speedy balloon strategy with the Skeleton Barrel remains effective to date, and combining it with Evo Skeleton Barrel makes it even more of a pain to deal with. It remains the heart and soul of Lavaloon decks. The only drawback it faces is low speed and being weak on its own. It can be easily countered using just bats when played as a single unit, but it has high synergy with many troops, and honestly, nothing is more satisfying than when you get that balloon to lock on. 56. Archer Queen. At her launch, everyone was worried about her being extremely broken, which she was. She quickly fell into every deck, and the invisibility ability made her a pain to deal with. She was an extremely strong support, and even a sole win condition in some scenarios. The Archer Queen would face a number of nerfs, but nothing stops her from dominating the arena even now. She remains limited to a few decks, but the value provided is still pretty fair for the elixir required. A card with relatively low skill barrier, she's not the worst card you could choose, but, not the best either. 55. Goblin Hut. The Goblin Hut rework was a complete game changer. It went from a fully offensive building to a defensive plus counter-push building. The usage rate fell in mid-ladder players, but top players discovered decks which utilized its new potential. It combined well with the Evo Witch and found its home in a few graveyard decks too. On defense, it is absolutely busted, but many players are yet to acknowledge the true potential that it has. 54. Guards. Old, reliable, and resistant to spells. Even in 2026, the guards remain extremely busted on defense. They chop down Hog Riders, Mega Knights, and even Valkyries from a safe distance. They can be relied on for counter pushes too, and can't be ignored when marching toward your tower. But all of this is not enough for just 3 elixir, when you can get similar interactions from other cards at a lower cost, especially after Evo Skeletons, Skeleton Army, and even Hero Goblins. The guards are slowly becoming more and more obsolete. 53. Graveyard. The graveyard has somehow always shown throughout the meta. It's always been there, not at the heart, but subtly and slowly creeping along. It always found decks where it belonged. It combined well with Poison, and then with the Evo, and now it combines with Hero Ice Golem. It always finds a way. The recent change on the skeleton spawning pattern made it even stronger, and if you don't like hyperbait decks, the graveyard might be the card you're looking for. 52. Vines. The Vines spell took the Evo Hunter fully out of the equation of gameplay. You get the exact same mechanic to hold down troops, but instead you get to hold down 3 troops and deal insane damage as well. A cheaper and slightly weaker free spell, it's one of the cards I would say is truly balanced. It struggles to get into the meta, but put in the right deck, it successfully over-delivers. Finding the right deck around it could be a bit hard and might not match your playing interests. Number 51. Bomber. For just 2 elixir, this little guy takes out every swarm card on the ground, and does a decent job against Valkyries and Hog Riders too. The EVO version used to be absurdly broken and was slowly nerfed to the point where no one would play it. Other EVOs are simply better than it, and finding the right deck for Bomber is quite hard. And even if you do, your opponent will likely use a spell to get rid of him immediately. The skill barrier is slightly high because managing your card cycle becomes crucial in decks around the Bomber. 50. Royal Ghost. There's one more card just as sneaky as the Suspicious Bush, the Royal Ghost. If he goes invisible at 1 HP, you need to play more elixir. Distracting him isn't enough to get him killed. He demands a decent response every time, and the evolution is even more deadly if he gets on the tower. For just 3 elixir, the Royal Ghost delivers immense value and has become a very versatile card after the launch of the Evo. It does well on defense and offense, which is a must for a card to use up an Evo slot. 49. Bowler. Bowler was one of the early cards which was capable of pushing cards away. But it's not just this mechanic which makes it strong. A big part lies in the high DPS it delivers as well. It breaks down pushes slowly and steadily. The long range allows it to connect with the tower pretty often as well. For 5 elixir, it synergizes very well and clogs up an entire lane against popular logbait decks. Once you figure out your opponent's cards, figuring out when to play the bowler is pretty easy. In the current meta, it falls along with graveyard and giant decks quite well. 48. Boss Bandit. This ranking will surprise many of you. The Boss Bandit. Yeah, she hits hard, yeah, she's hard to kill, but recently she's been falling a bit out of shape. Players are starting to play her less and less, especially at top ladder. She's way too expensive and doesn't allow you to play any win condition alongside her. She's slowly becoming less and less overpowered, which is making pro players lose their interest as well. Countering her is becoming quite easier, and the game has many more gimmicks which are more interesting and rewarding now. Number 47. Miner. The Miner has come a long way, especially with the low damage it promises. Although it qualifies as a win condition, it acts more like an Ice Golem, tanking the hits while bats, skeletons, and other smaller units do the real damage. It's always been an amazing cycle card, dealing tons of chip damage when played correctly, and it still remains quite dominant with the Miner poison cycle decks. It has been slowly falling out of fashion, which has happened multiple times. Sooner or later, it will be back in its prime, I promise. 48. Electro Dragon. The Electro Dragon has been quite a good card since its inception. It's strong on defense, strong on offense, and the evolved version is still busted years after its launch. The high versatility with other cards makes it a perfect card to pour your resources into. The cost of 5 elixir might make you slightly concerned, reasonably, but overall it is a decent card. Number 45. Bats. For just 2 elixir, you get 5 of these fast flying biters. Yes, they do die to a zap, but even zap costs 2 elixir. That means your opponent doesn't get a positive elixir trade. Moreover, it allows you to cycle to your evos and heroes. For 2 elixir, it pretty much over-delivers on what it promises. It falls into many decks really easily, and at the top ladder, it's not about just playing strong cards. It's also about making your opponent overcommit. Bats do this job perfectly. 44. Spear Goblins. Like bats, Spear Goblins are also there to help bait out Zap and Giant Snowballs. They are sometimes slightly better. You can split them at the back and get a little damage in one or both lanes. You can spam them at the bridge and get decent damage on the tower, or force out a response. Being a cheap card, the mistakes aren't that punishable. They help chip at large pushes and dissecting pushes gradually. For just 2 elixir, they outperform many 3 elixir cards. Sometimes. Like the Princess. Number 43. Witch. The Witch has been through some changes throughout the decades too. From the change in the way the skeleton spawn, to the reworks and how the evolution works, defending Prince and Giants, mini P.E.K.K.A.s and minion hordes, she does it all. Even after multiple nerfs, she's been in the meta for far too long, especially after the launch of the Evo. She finds her home currently with the Goblin Hut and Graveyard. Playing her at the center helps pull troops from both sides, making her extremely strong at distracting and defense as well. 42. Archers. If you have to name a classic dynamic duo, it has to be the Knight and the Archers. Archers fall easily into many decks now, and the evolution provides some insane value too, both on defense and offense. They make the classic Expo Tesla deck way stronger, and splitting them at the back makes them invincible to spells too. Tank for them using a Knight or other cheap troops and watch them shine at every stage of the game, all the way to Ultimate Champion. 41. Executioner. The Executioner was not mainstream for a long time, up until the evolution showed up. For 5 elixir, he is just as good as the Bowler, only he attacks air as well. He is the definition of a clean shave, completely devastating swarms of troops. The knockback of the evolution makes it extremely OP, fully countering balloons and hog riders. Just like the Witch, it doesn't die to most spells either, making it a very reliable unit in the arena. 40. Battle Ram. On the cheaper side of win conditions, we have the Battle Ram. For just 4 elixir, there are very few ways that your opponent can defend it while making a positive elixir trade. It used to find its place only in the P.E.K.K.A. bridge spam deck, but the evolution was a game changer, allowing for players to experiment more and come up with some unique strategies. The repeated bouncing of the Evo Ram makes it much more of a threat, and the low cost allows it to slip into any deck as well. The only problem is getting a connection to the tower, especially against good players. You are bound to struggle in that regimen. 39. Skeleton Army. The most loved card for beginners, which supposedly can defend everything. The Skeleton Army. Earlier, this card wouldn't have made it so high on this list. It used to get forgotten by players as soon as they entered mid-ladder and people cleaned it up with spells. That's when the game was simple. Now, after the evolution and so many new cards, everyone wants positive trades. No one wants to kill Skarmy using spells, but rather by distracting it with troops or using ice golems. But here's the catch. That doesn't work on the evolution Skarmy. Players try to defend it cheaply and end up taking a massive negative trade. The card is still gimmicky, yeah, and the interactions are also very fun. It's a pain to deal with now, and it's made its way back to the top of the ladder too, penetrating through all of the decks possible. 39. Firecracker. If you are asked to name one card which changed Clash Royale entirely, it would have to be the Firecracker. She's fast, she's strong, and she annoys the hell out of your opponent. Even if your opponent has arrows or vines, you can control when they play it. She's still absolutely busted on both defense and offense, and if you have no spells, well, good luck getting rid of her. Sometimes she does go into that cameraman mode, but until that happens, she's one of the best troops you can get for 3 elixir. 37. Furnace. The Furnace rework was possibly the biggest game changer after the launch of Firecracker, keeping aside evolutions and heroes. It does well on defense and does a bit too well on offense. Fire Spirits make it strong against swarms, and the extremely long range give it enough time to damage Valkyries and Battle Rams. Currently, it's an all-arounder, and it's a good package for a variety of cards like Firecracker and Magic Archer. It is a jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than a master of one. 36. Lumberjack. When we talk about high DPS, the Lumberjack cannot go unnoticed. He's fast, he hits hard, and drops that rage spell as a cherry on top. He's a huge threat just by himself, and don't get me started on his evolution. Along with all of that, he spawns an invisible ghost. I'd like one of whatever they're having at Clash Royale HQ, because the ghost, even after numerous reworks, is still absolutely busted. You cannot ignore it at all, and the low cost of just 4 elixir makes him extremely synergistic with almost every card in the game. If there was one evolution you need to have, it has gotta be this one. It slips into every deck and does a great job at defense too. Number 35. Mega Minion. This is another ranking that will shock most of you. You're not wrong to think that it doesn't belong to a whole lot of decks, but let's be honest, the hero ability, which is still a new concept, is extremely overpowered. Even without the ability, it is extremely strong on defense against both ground and air troops. Unlike the Phoenix, it can one-shot firecrackers, which might seem insignificant, but makes a very big difference when you take into consideration that it costs less than the Phoenix. He has a single job and does that job well, and now he can teleport to your opponent's tower and deal 1,000 damage to it in seconds too. What are they thinking? 34. Goblin Cage. The Goblin Cage was always a strong card on defense. It does an extremely good job at defense and is a guaranteed counter push if you defend successfully. The Brawler has very high DPS too and is significantly fast. The evolution makes it fully complete on defense, destroying all ground units by itself. It struggles against swarms, but usually you'll be playing more cards on defense with it, so that won't be a problem. It does stay a little limited on versatility, but the defensive upside puts it this high. Number 33, Royal Recruits. The Royal Recruit is the ultimate defensive card for ground units. They can defend swarms, they can defend single units. Breaking through this wall of 7 soldiers, which is spread out throughout the entire arena, is a total nightmare. The shields might feel weak, but it helps them avoid getting fireballed right away. They're required to be dealt with properly, or your opponent would almost always get a positive elixir trade. They're relatively simpler to play, and the evolution makes them goated on offense too. They stay limited to a few decks, but their synergy with so many support cards makes them an extremely reliable card. 33. Zap. Like some other cards, Zap always stayed consistent for many years. Beginners might feel like it's a useless spell because of the low damage, but trust me, Zap is way better than you could imagine. It pairs well with many high damage units, and combined with spirits, you can get rid of a lot of flying units too. The evolution does as much damage as a fireball to the tower, and having cheap cards in your deck is always a win. Learn to master the cheaper cards and you'll start enjoying the game the way the pros do. 31. Mega Knight. If there's one card which surpasses the hate the Firecracker gets, it has to be the Mega Knight. Unfortunately, the hate again is very reasonable. It provides tons of value and helps build a massive counter push. It can defend basically any grounded troop, and after unlocking the Evo, that uppercut feature is basically devastating, to keep it short. Yeah, the top players defend against it like it's nothing, but nonetheless, it remains a very strong card on offense and defense for a very long journey. Number 30. Goblins. Goblins have been in the limelight of the game since their count was changed from 3 to 4. They're extremely tough on defense, bait out spells, and can add tons of value to your counter push as well. They cannot be ignored, and if you used to think they were weak before, well, prepare for the hero goblins. They'll devour the support troops and take down towers like no other hero. They're greedy, they're fast, and they're the green goblins. Number 29. Goblin Barrel. Now we've gotten to the epitome of meta cards. The Goblin Barrel is no exception to this. You can still find it in every other match you play. It's established its position as one of the most reliable win conditions in the game. It forms the taste and essence of log bait and hyperbait decks, and absolutely baits out spells in every match. Be it control decks or cycle decks, this barrel has left a scar on everyone, everywhere. 28. Tesla. The Tesla is undoubtedly one of the best defensive buildings of the game. It is quick, reliable, and spell resistant. It traditionally finds its spot in the Rocket Cycle Expo deck, but honestly, it's super versatile. The Evo Tesla is still broken, doing way too much damage on defense. If you're really keen on having a building in your deck, the Tesla stands the test of time and is a very good option to consider. Number 27. Giant Snowball. Similar to Zap, the Giant Snowball can get rid of a lot of problems. Sure, it doesn't stun the opponent's prince like Zap does, but it can fully deal with the Goblin Barrel on its own. The Giant Radius makes it truly broken on defense. The evolution, especially, makes it totally worth the cheap 2 elixir cost. It helps Expos lock on, making defending against giant swarms a breeze, and unlocks tons of troll potential. If you really want an evolved spell just to have fun, you are really missing out if you haven't unlocked this one yet. 26. Baby Dragon. Like the Giant, the Baby Dragon is another OG card which has been there since the dawn of CR. It has very high versatility and fits in almost every deck. It used to be a bit localized to the Golem beatdown decks, but the decent amount of HP and damage allows it to synergize very well. Once again, the evolution is enough to buff any deck it falls into. 25. Musketeer. If there's one ranged card which really outshines most other cards, it's gotta be the Musketeer. It's cheaper than Wizard and almost the same resistance to spells. It hits hard and cycling back to it is always worth it. Be it the Hero or the Evo, both of them have their own good points which can make it a card worth your resources. It belongs to the Hog 2.6 deck, but in no manner is fully restricted to that specific deck. The synergies are very simple and effective. Tanking for it even with just an Ice Spirit is very annoying, giving you tons of value even in an actual game. 24. Valkyrie. The Musketeer is good, but only at a distance. When we talk about close-range cards, being as good as Valkyrie on defense is almost impossible. The area of impact around her is massive, and the HP is too high to die to any spell. She hits hard, tanks for the hard hitters, and is a total package for just 4 elixir. The evolution is even better, defending entire pushes by herself, sometimes getting no damage at all. The Valkyrie might be the only card which hasn't gotten any significant nerfs or reworks. It is the perfect card in many ways. 23. Skeleton Barrel. The Skeleton Barrel will be out of sight of everyone for many years, until the evolution would be released. Everyone slowly realized the potential even the regular card held without the evolution. Defending against it is a nightmare, and if you have no spells, all the best having tons of negative elixir trades. The explosive damage of the evolution Skelly Barrel is still devastating, and the dev team refuses to nerf it for whatever reason. This might be the only win condition which is good even on defense, against cards like Musketeer and even on large pushes when needed. 22. Wall Breakers. The Wall Breakers are fast and always demand a response. They can be played together, split in the middle, and for 2 elixir, they'll usually help you get a positive elixir trade or guarantee damage on the tower. They're often combined with other cheap cards. One of them bait out the spell, the other does real damage. They're a simple card, and if you play them fast enough, they're going to be a pain in the arse to your opponent. The Evo version, just like the Skeleton Barrel, is very reliable on defense and significantly harder to defend. Number 21. Royal Delivery. Tons of splash damage and a single recruit popping out. The Royal Delivery has always been the underdog of all spells, promising what it delivers. It does massive damage, cleans out pushes, and distracts them long enough for the tower to wipe them out. It can even deal with mini P.E.K.K.A.s and Mega Knights, if you're skilled enough. Practice with this card and you'll learn the true value in Mega Draft, where evolutions don't exist. One of the only cards to make it this high without an evolution, thanks to its high value and low elixir cost. Number 20. Knight. The Knight has always been an all-arounder. It soaks up damage, does defense on offense, and helps make massive counter pushes. Both the Evo and the Hero are absolutely nuts, making it a very reliable card in many decks. It forms the heart of Logbait and Expo decks and also opens up new possibilities for control decks. No other card which costs 3 elixir can deliver the same amount of HP and spell resistance, allowing the Knight to make a mark in the arena. Number 19. Berserker. The Berserker has many fans for many different reasons, but when we talk about gameplay, she's fast, reliable, and cheap. She can reduce tons of damage that you would otherwise have to take. Her addition revolutionized the cheap cycle decks. The true potential of Berserker is yet to be tapped into, and it's just a little buff or a hero away from belonging to every deck. It has the potential to replace tons of cards, Knight, Ice Golem, and even Skeletons. The Berserker's also a jack of all trades, making her a great substitute for many scenarios. Number 18. Tornado. In the heat of cool evolutions and high DPS, we often forget some fundamental features a deck should have. Tornado is the best possible way to activate your King Tower. It does great on defense, allowing your splash damage units like Executioner to wipe everything clean. It does great on offense, leading to crazy interactions as well. It's not the best answer to a lot of things, but if you want to get to the top of the race, you need to look at interactions like no one else does. Kite your opponent's troops, pull those firecrackers and princesses. These niche interactions is what will pull you ahead in the game. 17. Goblin Gang. The Goblin Gang is another extremely versatile card. It fits into so many decks. Splitting it gives good value, it does great on defense and forces spells out on offense. It forms the core of cycle decks and is extremely reliable to dissect pushes and defend very easily. It also does decently against air units, putting it far above Skeleton Army, and the goblins don't die to zap either, making them slightly more reliable. Number 16. Poison. It's good on its own, it's good with Graveyard, it does decent damage. When we talk about good spells, Poison takes the cake. It does a lot of damage, deals with swarms, and is one of the few spells that deals damage in ticks. It pairs up extremely well with Graveyard, and in most scenarios, it outdoes the Fireball as well. Not many people know this, but the Poison spell actually slows down troops by 15%. It is subtle, but sometimes that can lead to some game-changing interactions. It's a bit on the heavier side of spells, which makes people slightly less comfortable using it. But seriously, it is just that good. Number 15. Fisherman. Similar to Tornado, the Fisherman has immense potential on defense and offense. For 3 Elixir, he can change the tide of the game when paired with the right cards. He's one of the few ways to get giant skeletons and hog riders off your towers, even the clone ones. A slight HP or attack speed boost is all he needs to make it back strong into the meta. Currently, he sits in the unpopular Royal Giant Hunter deck and does his job flawlessly. The vulnerability to spells makes him undesirable to play, but if you ask me, Fisherman is yet to be utilized properly. He has immense potential to dissect pushes by himself and make a complete comeback. The skill barrier is high, yeah, don't get me wrong, and the decks are limited, but for 3 Elixir, he does a solid job even before getting any buffs. Number 14, the Dark Goblin. 3 Elixir toward pure destruction for the opponent. He's a machine gun, there's simply no match. No one realized his true potential for many years, and he hid in the shadows. Once the evolution was launched though, everyone realized how busted the regular Dark Goblin was too. He soon got a hit speed nerf, which finally allowed spirits to counter it. If it's 1 level higher than the log, he survives at half health. He's great on defense, and even just for spamming at the bridge. Ignore him and you're down 700 health at level 16. He's simply too strong, too fast. He deals with massive counter pushes on his own and demands spells to be played. He dominates the meta and rains destruction on the arena. Number 13. Hog Rider is another card that is straight up broken. Throughout the entire game history, it has barely gotten any nerfs. Whenever you do, the Hog Rider always gets a hit. It's fast, it hits hard, and costs just 4 Elixir. If you're not sure what win condition to play, well, here you go. It dominates every single arena and the entirety of Ranked. He's there everywhere. No one gets enough of him, especially not the dev team. The most popular decks are obviously 2.6 Hog Cycle and the infamous Hog Earthquake Cycle. Utterly nasty decks, which just have penetrated deep into the meta and refuse to stop. Number 12, Ice Golem. The only win condition which never connects to the tower. Say hi to the Ice Golem, but he's so weak. Well, that's why you're losing games. Ice Golem is extremely busted, kiting more than half the cards, giving you enough time to deal with them using ranged cards. The slowdown on its death is just as important, buying you even more time. It's a cheap answer to swarms, getting rid of skeleton armies and bats, and don't even forget about the hero Ice Golem. He is an absolute menace on both offense and defense. You get a giant area of slowdown and an additional freeze at the end too. I don't think the Ice Golem needs to justify anymore. What a nutty card it is. It's just for 2 Elixir, it's insane. Number 11, Cannon. If I really have to pick a quote-unquote best building, it has got to be the cannon. It counters way too many ground units, a bit too comfortably for just 3 Elixir. Be it swarms, tanks, the cannon deals with them all. It has a really high DPS, and just with a little help from some cheaper cards, it absolutely dominates the arena. The evolution makes no sense and removes its only weakness of dealing with too many troops at once. If you don't have your Tesla leveled up or want to play without using your Evo shards, the regular cannon is the better choice for you. Number 10, Mini P.E.K.K.A. He kills tanks, he destroys towers, and he likes pancakes. The Mini P.E.K.K.A. has always been loved by the community, not just for his cute demeanor, but also its extremely high DPS. 4 Elixir is a bit too much for it, but the hero Mini P.E.K.K.A. makes it reasonable. It does great on defense against Hog Riders, Lumberjacks, Valkyrie, Mega Knight, you name it. When needed, it can also be used to distract the swarms and let the tower handle it. He's old, cheap, and very reliable. Doesn't need a lot of support either, and does pretty well independently. Number 9, Golden Knight. When we talk about the less classic cards which provide immense value, Golden Knight has gotta be talked about. He's had his own nerfs and buffs throughout his short history, but still delivers what the Mini P.E.K.K.A. lacks. He's quicker, shreds down single units, and has a good deal of HP. Surrounded by Goblin Barrel, Golden Knight's here. His ability can give extremely high value in the right scenarios, chaining on massive pushes and sometimes even reaching the tower with no effort. The ability is what makes him crazy. His invincibility makes him extremely strong, being able to deal with multiple high damaging troops at once, plus the ability recharge time is pretty low, often allowing you to use it 2 times. If you have him unlocked, there's almost no reason not to play him. Number 8, Fireball, an all-time classic. Even in 2026, the Fireball helps deal with a lot of situations, dealing with wizards, musketeers, witches, everything. It's a simple card and an effective solution for many problems. They say if you start carrying around a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. And even at top ladder, Fireball has made a great comeback, especially after the surge of Furnace and Wizard usage. It remains a simple way to deal with everything in the game, and just like the early days, the satisfaction of raining fireballs over a massive push remains unmatched. Number 7. Minions. For 3 elixir, you get a truckload of damage, both on the air and ground. The minions are fast and reliable, dealing good damage against almost every card in the game. It shreds tanks, doesn't die to cheap spells easily, and slides into any deck. Even without an evolution or support like the Mini P.E.K.K.A., they are good by themselves. At a point, they received a range buff, which made them so broken they had to revert the update again. They're more reliable than bats and are a threat on offense as well. Often ignored, they end up doing more than 1,000 damage on the opponent's tower. If the golem is sneaky, the minions are sneakier. Number 6. Arrows, the classic spell which you played in your first game of Clash. The arrows. You thought you'd shift to cooler spells, but all roads lead to Rome. The arrow spell dominates the top ladder, cleaning up many 3 elixir cards at once. It deals with guards well too, and it does very good damage for a 3 elixir spell. There's almost never any negative trades when using arrows. The current hyperbait economy motivates many more to play arrows very reasonably. It almost always provides value and outdoes every other spell by a huge margin. Number 5. Skeletons. The skeletons have always been loved, even more than the Mini P.E.K.K.A. They never fail to deliver. Use them to chip down on defense, use them to kite. The value they provide for just a single elixir is just unmatched. The Evo Skellies can carry entire games when played correctly, shredding down entire pushes by themselves. Yeah, they seem fragile and require practice and perfect positioning, but they can be mastered. And with evolutions, having cheap cards in your deck is a must. The skeletons fulfill this role flawlessly. Number 4. Ice Spirit. When we talk about god tier defense, it's impossible for the Ice Spirit to not be mentioned. The micro interactions it provides accumulate in a game. One single Ice Spirit may not deliver too much value, but when you quickly play it again and again and again and again, it starts adding up. Every Ice Spirit can give you a positive elixir trade when played like a masterclass. It is a fun and reliable card belonging to the big leagues. Number 3. Electro Spirit. Just like the Ice Spirit, the Electro Spirit offers tons of value too. It can take out entire skeleton barrels and skeleton armies and a chain all the way to their Princess Tower. The output for just 1 elixir is insane. Combining with small spells makes it effective against minions, goblins, and other medium HP troops too. It also resets the Sparky and Inferno Dragons much more easily than the Ice Spirit, and it leaves an evolution slot for other cards too. Number 2. Barbarian Barrel. The Barbarian Barrel is another extremely underrated card. It used to cost 3 elixir and was soon changed to 2 elixir. It has extremely high defensive potential, similar to the Royal Delivery. It has a faster spawn time, and it's easier to master, and it deals with a lot of troops, either by crushing them or distracting them and pulling them to the middle. It deals with firecrackers too, which many other cheap spells struggle against. It can also be used to make small, fast pushes. Just combine it with bats or graveyard and watch your opponent panic. It gives you an element of surprise, which you can unleash at any point in the game, even after they know your deck. And number 1. Log. Finally, the best card in the game. The Log, an all-time classic. It's loved and it's hated. It deals with all ground cards, slows down battle rams and ram riders. A simple knockback makes it extremely versatile and strong, to the point that you'll find it in almost every other deck you face. The knockback can lead to impeccable interactions, giving you a massive edge over your opponents. And don't even get me started on the positive trades you can make with this thing. The Log also makes cards retarget, sometimes saving tons of damage on your tower. Although we did place Log at the number 1 spot, it does depend on the matchup. There's absolutely no best card in the game if your opponent hard counters it. But evolutions are a little bit easier to judge based on the value they provide. I ranked every single evolution in the game from the worst to best. Go watch it now, and I'll see you there.